Hello, welcome to my channel. My name is Lizzie and I thought for today's video it would be fun to do another unpopular horror opinions video. I did one of these actually about a year ago. I was looking it up last night and it's been about a year since I made the original one. So I thought it'd be fun to do this again. I also previously did a reacting to your unpopular horror opinions. So I want to do another one of those after this. So if you want to participate in that video, as soon as this goes up, I am also going to post on my Instagram story one of those little just question boxes so you can respond and it'll be anonymous. Nobody will have to see it if you don't want. Or if you don't care, you can also leave a comment down below. Also, if you don't have Instagram, you can email it to me at carnagecandy@gmail.com. 2 eyes. Please no spam. I'll block you if you do. So you can send any unpopular opinions to that email address as well if you still want to remain anonymous. Just put in the subject line unpopular horror opinions. So look forward to doing that video again as well. But I wanted to go ahead and do this. I know Vicky from Nightmare Maven has done this quite a few times. She recently released another one. Make sure to check out her videos. Emma from Spooky Astronauts has also done it. A handful of people have, but I just know those two as well. So make sure you check out their videos as well. But let's go ahead and just get into talking about them. So my first one is that too much hype can be a bad thing. And I think this can go for really any genre of film, but I think definitely for horror has been getting really big again. I mean, people love to go to the theaters. Obviously, we can't right now with everything going on, but people love to go to the movies to see horror films. I know I really enjoy seeing them in theaters. I think it adds another level of intensity to the horror film, but I think too much hype prior to it can just be a bad thing. I mean, we've seen, I've seen posts all the time that are like, when a movie said it was the scariest film in 2019, it's, roll an eyes gif or some sort of sassy comment, because that happens a lot. Films get this hype as being so terrifying and, people couldn't sit through it. Even Shudder has a series of cursed films. Not sponsored, but I highly suggest that series if you have Shudder and you haven't watched it, because I just recently watched it and it's super good, and they talk about the hype of a curse on a film and how there are films that played into it to really promote themselves. And I think if a film is being labeled as being super scary and then you go into it and it's really not, like, it just can completely ruin the experience. And I think that too often we get too hyped for something and then can end up being let down. My next one won't really be that surprising to anybody, but I find found footage films boring. I was surprised I didn't talk about that in my last one. Now, that's not to say that there aren't some found footage films that I have enjoyed. I reviewed The Blair Witch Project during 101 Days, and I actually had a bit of a change of heart on that film, second time watching it around. I also reviewed The Tunnel as suggested by Emma from Spooky Astronauts, and really enjoyed that one. So there are some found footage films that can be great, and I think I've talked about it on this channel before, but for me, it's just that the whole problem with found footage for me is that that's what it is. It's supposed to be found footage. It goes off the idea that it's something that really happened, and sometimes they can be based on true events, but if you know going into it that it's not actually real, to me that just, it kind of ruins it. And I know with films like The Blair Witch Project, when that came out, it really was like the jumping point for found footage. I know it's not the first found footage film, but it really was a big jumping point. And so I can understand why that one would have been so terrifying at that time, because there is no real history of found footage. So I feel like the more found footage films that come out now, I just don't really vibe with it as much as some people do, which is fine if you do. It's just, for me, it kind of loses its appeal when you know that it's not real, which I know is kind of a little odd because obviously horror films like slashers aren't generally real, though they can be based on real people, of course. But when found footage goes off of the appeal that it's real, but you know that it's not, that's where it gets lost. I hope that makes sense. I know I kind of rambled and repeated myself, but I wanted to make sure it made sense. I think you guys will get what I mean. Next one is, and Vicky kind of talked semi about this in her most recent. She was more specific about the particular film and score that she was talking about, which I won't spoil. But scores / music can kind of ruin a film. I think that a film can have a great score, but if it's played too often, it doesn't always have to be a very specific score song that's used throughout the film, like certain films do. It can just be the music that they play in general, the very like dun 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 taunting music. I think that can ruin the moment because sometimes it leads to nothing, and sometimes it does lead to, it is used to let you know that something not good is gonna happen, and that, I understand that can get your heart racing, but I definitely think that a scene can have an even harder impact on you if there isn't this taunting music leading up to it. If something just happens out of nowhere when you're not expecting it and there's not some creepy music playing, I think that can like really hit you because you're so used to the music leading to something, or at least giving you that feeling as if it's leading to something, but when there is no music and something happens, that's just even more so terrifying in my opinion. But that does kind of mix a little bit with my next maybe unpopular opinion, but is that jump scares are not always a bad thing. I think in this community we complain a lot about jump scares, and maybe it's because, I don't know, slashers are generally filled with jump scares, so I'm kind of okay with that. But I mean, if a jump scare is scary, then, and it gets your heart racing in that moment, I don't think that it's always a bad thing. Yeah, too many of them and nothing really actually like terrifying happens, then yeah, that's kind of annoying, but I don't think jump scares are always necessarily a bad thing. And maybe this is an unpopular opinion in itself as well. Not everybody is into the complete gruesomeness. Some people like the feeling that, I keep saying heart racing throughout these opinions, but that's what it is. The heart racing feeling you can get from a jump scare. Some people enjoy that more so, and I think that it's perfectly fine and doesn't make you any less of a horror fan if you really enjoy jump scares in a film. So I don't think that they're necessarily a bad thing. And my last unpopular horror opinion for this video is that you don't have to have seen all of the classics to be a horror fan. And I thought about putting this on the list as well, but they kind of play together, is that it's also okay if your favorite decade of horror is more of a newer, like the 90s or aughts or 10s or whatever, whatever you vibe with. I don't think that an older decade of horror, 60s, 70s, 80s needs to necessarily be your favorite for you to be a true horror fan. So I also don't think that you necessarily have to have seen all of the classics. I mean, and granted, everybody's opinion on a classic horror is obviously different, but I think that if you haven't seen the Texas Chainsaws, the Halloweens, Friday the 13th, Nightmares, I hate to say it, Scream, I think Scream's very important, and I mean all of those are, but I think that if you haven't seen, to me, Scream is a classic, but I think if you haven't seen some of these films, the Blair Witch Projects, Exorcisms, whatever, again, everybody's opinion on a classic is different. I don't think that makes you less of a horror fan. I've said it myself. I haven't seen every film in the Texas Chainsaw franchise. I haven't seen every film in the Halloween or Friday the 13th. I have not seen every single one. I'm pretty sure I've actually seen every Nightmare on Elm Street. I definitely have not seen every single classic that there ever was, and I fucking love horror. So I think that if you haven't seen those, it's okay. You don't let people judge you. Don't let anybody shame you because you haven't seen all the big wigs. You can still be a horror fan. So that is my list for unpopular opinions for now. Maybe I'll make another one of these another year or something. But let me know, again, some of your unpopular horror opinions down in the comments below if you would like. Again, if you would like to do it anonymously, you can do so over on Instagram or my email. If you did enjoy this, please do give it a big old thumbs up. Make sure you hit that subscribe button for more horror-related content. And before I go, a quick shout out to my Patreons. Thank you guys so much for helping to contribute to the channel. If you know the perks to being a Patreon, links are in the description below, along with all of my other social media. And I will see you guys again later with another video.